Hello and welcome to AFI Weekly. Tongue-tied at the start. That's a brilliant start to the show. It must be April Fool's Day that's getting me. Dara here with you, joined for the moment by Ryan, hopefully joined by Alex in a little bit. So don't worry, Aaron McCardle, he's on his way. Ryan, how are you?
I'm very well. Happy that another week of AFI is in the books. The UFL started as well this week, so I was watching a bit of that. Not as exciting as the AFI, to be honest.
You know what is exciting though? The formation of the Irish League of American Football today, the ILAF. And I definitely didn't get that wrong 3 or 4 times right in that post today. Absolutely did not.
Big news. Obviously being funded by professional wrestler Sheamus. So, we'll see what they can do with that funding.
It's the championship will be called the Fella Bowl. That's so someone will be the inaugural fellas this year as Alex joins us here. And we have 3 teams so far: the West Coast Coolers, the Dublin Devils, and the Belfast Brutes. So we're taking applications for new teams. Anyone's open. Alex, I'm sure we will get, loud is there, a Dundalk style, maybe? Drogheda team coming along to the Irish League of American Football?
That's what we'll send you down a Drogheda squad, yeah.
Excellent stuff. And obviously it will be marshaled by quarterback Tyler Hendry II, of course, will be the starting quarterback for the Drogheda starting team, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Tyler Henry, French import.
Henry. Exactly. Well, look, listen, I know people want a ban on imports. I have already spoken to the people in charge at the ILAF. There will be no ban on imports. So I encourage teams to get their Euro player pages set up. You will have a salary cap each year of 1 McDonald's double cheeseburger meal. So use that wisely for whoever you're going to bring as your import.
Can we get a McPlant substitute or otherwise for players of my persuasion?
You don't eat your own salary cap.
Yeah.
It's for the Euro players, man.
True.
You know,
true.
Win the Fella Bowl and you can get a McPlant. We already have a 4th team announced. The Armadillos. I like that. I do like that. Yeah. So yeah, I guess in the old league, the less important, boring league this week, we had 4 games that we're going to have to review, and we have 4 games we're going to have to preview as well. We're definitely getting into the league good and proper now. Teams are playing. Everyone has now played after this past weekend, after your good selves, Alex, played, and we'll get into that game. We will start with Saturday's games, and I guess we'll start with the Premier Division. I guess no disrespect to both teams, but we'll get this game out of the way first. The UL Vikings 0, the South Dublin Panthers 0, a 0-0 draw in the AFI for the first time since the North Dublin Pirates and Meath Bulldogs pulled off that same scoreline in 2019. I must confess, once I saw the score, I decided I wasn't going to watch it on Quick Cuts. So I assume what I've heard from a Sean McVay wet dream, which is, of course, the only time the ball is run. There's no such thing as a forward pass, no such thing even as a backward pass. Run. Alex, I guess, is that your sort of summation of the game as well?
Yeah, well, I was actually late because I was struggling to get my son down to sleep there with the clocks changing. So I actually just stuck on the tape on Quick Cut, bang out like a light. You know, the usual tactic of sticking on the domestic game podcast wasn't working this time. So stuck on the UL Panthers highlights, and he was out like a light. Look, jokes aside, I think it was a pretty good defensive performance. You know, as a defensive guy, there was plenty of good run stopping ability on display. We did talk last week about how this one was probably going to be fairly low scoring, but it really surprised to see that nobody could get on the score sheet. And it just highlights again, like last week we mentioned with Cork, it highlights the importance of having a kicker in this league. I believe the Panthers went for it with 4th and 3 from like the UL 10-yard line. If you have even a halfway decent kicker, you can just kick the 3 points there and come away with a win, which would be a massive for either of these sides, who are probably going to be fighting for survival come the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of puts a wrench into the bottom of the table battle as it is at the moment, Ryan, because I'm sure the Cowboys, after their win in their first week against UL, thought maybe if worse comes to worse that they don't get another win this year, maybe that win against the Vikings could have been enough. But this drawn game now has definitely put a cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, it certainly makes things pretty interesting down there. Another draw from UL at this point, which we did see them do versus the Cork Admirals last year. Another draw would be enough to tie them on points with UL at this point in the season, or with the Cowboys at this point in the season. So every point counts at that end of the division. It is certainly going to be a bit of a test moving forward. It would be very interesting to see what happens with that. The Cowboys and the Panthers in their game, to just see where that kind of level is. But it's a fascinating little wrinkle.
Yeah. And of course, obviously the Cowboys and the Vikings do still have to play each other as well. And like you mentioned, that Cowboys and Panthers game is going to be very interesting when it comes about. Next games for both teams, the Vikings are traveling up to Belfast. They're going to be taking on the Belfast Knights on the 13th of April. And then the Panthers have a quick turnaround. They are at De La Salle for their game with the Rebels this Sunday. So no time at all to waste for them to try and get a win on the board, and obviously try to get some points on the board after drawing blanking the last game and obviously scoring the one touchdown in the game against the Trojans.
Yeah,
for the Vikings, obviously.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say that. I was just going to say about the Vikings that they now are I guess actually before we move on, I'll open this to both of you. Is there a little cause for concern when it comes to the Vikings in terms of their offense? 2 games against probably the 2 sides that are looking like they're going to be closest to them in the table haven't been able to score against either side. With, of course, tougher games to come. Is that a cause for concern? I'll go with Alex first.
Yeah, definite cause for concern. As we've said, though, it's a very young side, so I would expect them to develop as the season goes on. I think they played the Cowboys as well as one of the last games of the season. And that draw does throw a bit of a spanner in the works if, say, the Cowboys are unable to pick up a win anywhere else in the season. They do play the Panthers, so we'll watch that one keenly. But it would mean that the UL don't no longer have to beat them by 10. It's not we just need to beat the score. They would just need to beat them with that draw and they'd be able to overtake them. So it does throw an interesting wrinkle in there. Look, the Vikings haven't been able to move it in the 2 games we've seen really at all. It's certainly not through the air at all, and a little bit on the ground, but nothing great. You would hope that some development would happen as the season goes on. As we said, a really young side. But it's going to be tough sledding now when they come up against these bigger opponents who are all looking at playoff football as their aim, I think. Yeah.
Well, look, that's it. When you have an offense that's struggling like the Vikings do, you do tend to rely on your defense. And look, the Vikings have only conceded 10 points in 2 games. That's still very, very impressive. So the defense are holding up their end of the bargain. So, Rian, I guess, if you're a Viking, if you're on the Vikings roster or Vikings coaching staff, you're hoping that the defense can keep you in games as much as you can and hope that we can get the offense sorted in time to, get us moving, get us some points, and get us some wins.
Yeah, absolutely. They are really going to use that defense as a crutch going on in the season. But as we've seen ourselves, Dara, with the Pirates, often a good defense is not enough to win games. Your offense does need to be somewhat productive. So hopefully they can figure out how to move that ball in the air. I think that's going to be key against some of those bigger teams in the division. And hopefully they manage to get a few scores on the board, because it can be tough going when the offense isn't firing. So I'm hopeful for them.
Excellent. Anything else, lads, before I move on?
No.
Nope. Excellent stuff. On to the other game on Saturday. That was in Division 1. The Northwest Vipers against the West Dublin Rhinos up in Derry in the Vale Centre. Rhinos win 8-0 in obviously a high-scoring affair, but also the conditions, which obviously we did mention in the first game, should have probably mentioned the two conditions on Saturday, obviously weren't ideal compared to the conditions that we had on Sunday. Swirling winds and rain and a heavy pitch didn't aid. Although the scoreline looks tight, the Vipers are a very strong side on the lines, very tough, hard hitting. My back is still sore from from playing centre and getting bashed around by a nose tackle. But just scoring wise, Craig Usher with a rushing touchdown and a 2-point conversion for the Rhinos in the third quarter. Matt Mays had an interception. They also had 2 touchdowns chalked off by the referee. I've seen air footage. I haven't seen the VO footage from the Vipers yet. I'm still not sure why the 2 touchdowns were chalked off. Well, the first one they said they kind of used down at the 1. Air angle wasn't great. It was at the other end of the field. We couldn't see it. The other one, I think they said it was a false start. I don't see the false start, but look, it is what it is. That they saw it, they called it. That's the important thing. But important that for Rhino's point of view, A, we stopped conceding points in this game. B, we moved the ball an awful lot better than we did in game 1. And obviously C, we scored points, which was obviously the main thing. We would have liked to have scored more, considering the defense did us a solid by pitching a shutout, which we're delighted by. But look, that's going to come. It's well established. It's a new offense this year. It's going to take time to gel. We saw signs of it at the weekend. It's going to continue to develop, obviously, with the next game against yourselves, Alex. But happy to get wins on the board first. Then we'll start obviously progressing the offense as the weeks go on as well. But Alex, I don't know if you've got a chance to see tape yet, but sort of your view on how the game went.
Haven't gone in depth on this one yet. Seen a few clips and whatnot, but look, as you mentioned, tough conditions up there, and whenever if it's even slightly bad up there in the Vale Centre, it's horrific. Like the wind and the rain, you feel every bit of it. I think he had a kicking issue as well. Dara, at some stage where you had to kick into. You had to change ends for kicking due to a.
So that was first quarter. So the way the wind was, it was going up and down the pitch. So for 2 quarters, you couldn't throw the ball because the wind was in your face. We had the wind at our backs in the first quarter. We were driving down. We got close to their scoreline, to the end zone, but for one other reason or another, we couldn't punch it in. Got pushed back. We decided to kick the field goal because we had the wind at our back. Just before we were going to kick the field goal, the referees then just told us that we can't kick down that way, because if we kick that way, there's no net behind and it goes into another field, and they don't have a key to get into that field, so they can't get the football back. So then we had to go up to the other end of the pitch to kick against the wind into the car park, to which we did miss the kick. Look, listen, we missed the kick, and that's what we have to deal with. But yeah, wasn't ideal. There was a good bit, 5 minutes sort of back and forth of what we're going to do. Are we going to go for it now? Are we not? Are we going to kick it? we did kick. I think actually there was a flag on the play in the meantime, and I think it was against the Vipers. So if we made the kick, I don't know if we would have accepted it. But then, so we had another chance at fourth down. We then decided to go back down the field and actually go for it on fourth down, and we didn't make it on fourth down. So it was just a huge amount of confusion, which kind of, kind of played into our thoughts on offense for the rest of the day. Instead of going maybe for points with field goals when we were close, we decided that we had to go for it a lot more on fourth down.
Yeah, that is AFI at its finest there. That is very much hashtag greatest league in the world kind of vibes for anyone who's an LOI fan. Yeah, I mean that is a bit of a momentum killer as well, Dara. Like if you said you were driving the ball well on that drive and you take 5 minutes out to sort of argue semantics and march one end down pitch and up another, like that kind of does, you don't really think of it at the time, but that does kill momentum and kind of take you out of it a little bit. So I can understand that one. But look, as you said, the important thing is when you're playing in conditions like that is you don't get caught and end up losing the game in a low scoring one, and you get a game nicked on you, which can happen. We've seen happen many times in this league. So look, I'm sure you're all happy enough with the win. Sure, it wasn't perfect. I'm sure it wasn't pretty, but you got it out the W, which kicks off kickstarts your season. I think it's what you all needed, and yeah, I think you got to be happy enough with that. From the Vipers side of things, they'll probably be disappointed. They would have been on a high from their win. And as we say, in those conditions, they are the type of team who could really play to that condition and make it as hard as possible for you on the day, which I'm sure they did. And I think beating the team that were in the bowl losing by a touchdown to a team who were in the bowl last season is pretty good going for the Vipers, considering where they were last season. I'm sure they're still going to be disappointed and ruin maybe a couple of plays here and there that they feel might have changed the course of the result for them. But look, you got to take it as it comes, and congratulations to you. And we look forward to hosting you not hosting you, going down to you in 2 weeks' time for another cracker of a game.
Yeah. Just Ryan, before I get your point of view on the game, talking about boycotting the Vale Centre. In the ILAF, all games will be played in a dome. So there will be no weather conditions hampering games at all. So that is one of the selling points of the ILAF, that we will have a dome for games for league games and that, so you will not have to worry about these sort of weather conditions. But Rain, your view on the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot more to say on the game that Alex hasn't already covered. But what I will say is, obviously, it's a monkey off the back for the Rhinos. They've got their first win of the season. It's unfortunate that the rookie quarterback wasn't there to experience that victory, but say la vie, he's going to get his opportunities later on in the season. And yeah, from the Vipers' perspective, they're probably still buoyed by the results. The fact that they only lost by a touchdown in this one, they're going to really feel moving forward. Maybe if they're not challenging for a playoff spot, they can certainly disrupt some teams up there in and around that area, because they know that they can compete with any team in that AFI one. So it'll be a result that's buoyed them, even though they didn't come away with the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did mention something there that I had to go back to. I've lost it. Oh, yes. Rookie quarterback, Kevin. Yeah, he was unavailable for the game. You are correct. Because he was busy, or because he had the half marathon the next day, and he only went and came second in the whole bloody thing.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, so congratulations to Kev on Kevin Kelly on that, coming second in the men's category of the Dublin half marathon. Really fantastic feat. I think he was less than 2 minutes or something behind the eventual winner or something like that, which is absolutely fantastic. Just over an hour. I don't know if that timing's good for half marathons. If you've seen me, you know I don't run marathons, so I can watch marathons and watch marathon TV shows, but I'm not going to be running in any.
And they joke about the Mavs being the silver medalists, perennial silver medalists. That's 2 for you at the Rhinos now in the last few months.
Yeah, it's better be careful now. We'll start making a habit of it. Jesus.
Yeah.
Right, so next games for both teams. The Vipers have to lick their wounds quickly because they are against the Stags again at the Vale Centre this Sunday. The Rhinos, like we discussed, Alex, their next game is at home to the Mavericks. Their home opener on the 12th of April in Castleknock College, 2 p.m. kickoff for that. On the Sunday, and their games. Unfortunately, sorry, Jason, we are going to have to talk about this game. The Craigavon Cowboys 0, the Belfast Trojans 42. Trojan scorers on the day was Rayshawn Boswell with 3 rushing touchdowns. Don Lynn threw 2 passing touchdowns to Oren Wilson and Max Dimitrov. Sorry, excuse me. Tom Goodchild had a punt recovery for a touchdown. And then Oren Wilson was 6 out of 6 for PATs as well. A dominant victory from the Trojans and a day, I should say, of dominant victories for teams. 2 games in a row now for the Trojans where they have scored over 40 points. They've only conceded 7 points in 2 games as well. So the defense is playing well. The offense is playing well. Are we finally getting the Trojans that we've wanted to see now for the last 2 years? Are we starting to see the challenging Trojans that will hopefully challenge UCD all the way this year?
It's certainly exciting stuff. They've definitely hit the ground running, like you said, more than 40 points in both of their first 2 games of the season. And that was really where we had criticism of them last year, was their inability to put the ball in the end zone. So they've certainly started out very well in that respect. Ideally, you'd maybe want these games to be coming against tougher opposition, but you can't choose your schedule, so you got to beat who's in front of you. And they have done that, and they've done so impressively. So they'll be buoyed with confidence going into the season. It'll be a really, really big test when they do eventually play UCD, just to see where we're at. And yeah, who knows? That might be the.
Oh, have we lost him?
No, he's blinking.
He's blinking, but I think he thinks we've lost him. Rain, you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. I just finished my points. Did I not?
No, you kind of stopped midpoint there, I thought, Alex, didn't he?
I thought so, but
yeah.
Maybe I cut out or something. I made a very, very good point in any case.
He glitched there. The AI behind, that runs his brain has failed there, just glitched, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, but my last point was to do with when they eventually play against UCD, it's going to be a great marker in terms of how they're getting on with the season, and it may very well be a precursor to the eventual Shamrock Bowl. So yeah, that was my point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the Trojans have played 2 games and they've put up 89 points. It's impressive by any standard. With UCD comparatively, I've put up 76 from 2 games as well. So you're looking at it clearly the 2 highest powered offenses playing in the league at the minute. So yeah, in terms of being on the collision course for meet up in the Shamrock Bowl, probably it's a bit too early to call anything like that, I'd say. But yeah, no, they're definitely looking like they're going to be red hot favourites for that. One of those top 2 spots, I'd say it's definitely going to come down to those 2 sides. They just they've got so much power on the ground. The ground game, it seems to be just like it's multiple touchdowns every week. I think that coupled with their passing game, if they can get that really motoring, like I'm sure they haven't had to really utilize it or delve into it too much with how good they've been on the ground. But like with how potent that is, that also makes your passing game so much easier to execute. It opens up so much more. They're going to be commanding more players in the box, so you're able to get sort of those easier passes, the short outs, the routes your tight ends are running are going to be easier and more open because defenses are going to be trying to selling out to kind of stop the run from those powerful runners they've got in the back. So yeah, things boding really well for the Trojans early on. And yeah, you'd like to see them continue that sort of the score net, but they've got, wouldn't really expect them to slow down too much either until they meet that UCD side, and then we'll see what they're really made of, I think.
Absolutely. Next up for both teams, the Trojans head down to Cork to face the Admirals on Saturday, and then the Cowboys are going to be travelling to Dublin to take on the Rebels on the 13th of April. So we'll have to get through these games. This last game very quickly. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's involved in this one anyway. The Loud Mavericks 44, the Wexford Eagles 6. Mav scorers now. Hopefully, Alex, you can correct me if I got this wrong now. But touching rushdowns by Finn O'Donovan, Ty Henry, and Grant Shute.
Touching rushdowns.
Touching rushdowns, exactly. Rushing touchdowns. Passing touchdowns. Ty Henry first to Alan Minto and then to Finn O'Donovan. And then Finn O'Donovan threw a passing touchdown to one Brendan Sims. On the Eagles side of things, Luke Fitzpatrick picked off Ty Henry for a pick six for the Eagles' sole score. So, Alex, I will turn my mic off, let you discuss. Tell me, how did the game go on Sunday?
Yeah, well, it was great conditions, like the antithesis to what you experienced up in Derry. I would say, Dara, it was an absolute scorcher, played on a nice field in the lovely grounds of St. Michael's GA club in Newtown, Hamilton. So thanks to them again for bailing us out there and giving us a home ground to play on. And yeah, the game was probably straightforward enough. The Wexford were down with about 20 odd bodies down there, so a lot of Ironman football. We've all experienced that in our time, and with that coupled with the heat that was generated in there, the pitch is in a bit of a valley, so it's sort of shaded. It was a bit shaded from the wind, and it was just a scorcher of a day. So that really tolls heavily on you. And our offense got off to a flying start. They were running and humming pretty well. As I kind of said last week, Ty had been he's a pretty hard taskmaster and make sure everything's perfect before we do go out. So when we were repping it then on the field, it's just so much easier because you've done everything 100 times until you've gotten everything perfect. Yeah, important to note that the only score of the game from the Eagles wasn't let in by the defense. It was Ty Henry's fault entirely. Just
that wasn't very perfect then, now was it?
No, true, absolutely not. And I'm sure he took his penance. I don't know what he would prescribe for himself. It's usually push-ups for the offense when they drop catches. So I don't know what sort of hell he's going through himself, mental anguish he's putting himself
12
through.
lashings at least. Yeah, 6 lashings, pick 6.
Absolutely. But look, the Eagles, they played hard, they played physical, the sort of the way we all expect and know that the Eagles do play. So they did certainly put it up to us in the early part, but as I said, when bodies start going down, and there was quite a few injuries on both sides early in the match as well. I think the Eagles had a guy who I think he did his shoulder, and Connor Hogan as well did his knee on a kickoff play as well. So they kind of, when you're down with low numbers and you have 2 guys who are out and can't play the rest of the game, it's really difficult. And I think that sort of eventually told on them, and we were able to run our offense without much bar the one blip. We were pretty good. I don't think they punted all day. The offense and defensively, we stood up pretty strong to what the Eagles had. So we had the benefit of the one benefit of being the last team to play is we had tape to watch of the Eagles. We were able to, sort of see what schemes they were running and plan for it, whereas they didn't quite have the same for us. So, yeah, I think that sums up the game pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Must say as well, you mentioned the temporary home, the venue. I don't know if it was done on purpose by whoever recorded your game, but picturesque. You
Oh,
know, with
yeah.
the mountains in the background and everything. So good. So
Yeah,
good.
it's a fantastic wee spot there. Just like, and a very unassuming as you come in the town. You just go down this little hill, and as I said, it's in a valley. It's gorgeous. So you never know. We might be back there someday in the future. But yeah, for now, we look forward to returning home to Dundalk in May.
Hell of a busy one. Rian, sort of, your point of view, I guess. With Ty Henry there, obviously, is the head coach quarterback there too, and the players that they've been able to bring in, in hindsight, that score is not exactly surprising. But on the Eagles side of things, that's 2 games in a row now that we've heard that the numbers are low. They've gone through a lot of changes this offseason, obviously with new head coaches, changes at quarterback too. So changes of schemes and everything like that. Now I am aware that the 2 games first are away, and they're decent trips up to Mullingar and up to not even to Dundalk, even further up from from Gorey. So I'm sure they're just waiting to get home and play a home game and see, and hopefully they can get the numbers up, and hopefully then the familiarity of home will be able to spur them on for getting some wins on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair to them, a couple of tough games to start it out. I think they'll be more hoping to kind of get their teeth sunk into some of the more lower teams in the league, because not that the Eagles are a bad side in any way. It's just, as you said yourself, a lot of changes going on there. New head coach, new offensive scheme, new quarterback. It's nice to get reps against teams that you can kind of move the ball against, as opposed to an AFI 1 powerhouse that is the Louth Mavericks. So yeah, from their side of the ball, I think we were expecting them to have a nice game, but obviously they had the same concerns going in, the new scheme, new head coach, all that sort of jazz. But there's as Alex said, Ty is a bit of a taskmaster, so he got them humming early on, and that'll be a good stepping stone for the rest of the season.
Don't be calling Alex a perennial D1 powerhouse. You'll get his egos going. Don't do it.
It's like one of those it's one of those half compliments, like AFI 1 powerhouse, never Premier Division, AFI 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fair.
Absolutely. Next games for both teams, like we mentioned with the Mavs, they're heading up to Castleknock to face the Rhinos on the 12th of April. The very next day, on the 13th, the Eagles will finally be at home, but unfortunately it doesn't get any easier, because they will be at home to at the moment 2-0 Crusaders on the 13th. But as we will get into it now in a few minutes, Crusaders will have a game before that, so we will see if they're still unbeaten at that stage. Before we move on, anything else to add on the game, lads? No?
Nope.
Anything else to add on the weekend in general that has just passed before we move on? Any points you feel that we missed out on?
No.
Excellent. So we've covered everything. I love that. That's perfect. The next week's games. 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday again. I'm liking this 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday thing. Spreads it out. Gives you a chance to go to a game if you want to go to a game. I'm hoping maybe I'll be down in Newbridge on Saturday if I can. We'll see. We'll start with the Premier Division games first, and we'll start with the Saturday game. The 0-1 Admirals welcome the 2-0 Belfast Trojans to the MTU in Cork. The Admirals off their disappointing 11-4 defeat to the Belfast Knights a couple of weeks ago. Trojans, of course, coming off their big win at the weekend against the Cowboys. A very interesting matchup for both teams, considering, the high that the Admirals were on, winning the Shield last year, and obviously hoping for better this year. Still, obviously, very early yet. 1 game does not define your season. Against a Trojans team who now, like we mentioned in the review, are they going to be the team to challenge UCD? And if they are, this is the type of game that they're going to have to go down and win.
100%, and I think they're going to have to win it pretty convincingly, to be honest. Now, that being said, the Admirals are a bit of a wild card in this one. We've only seen them play against the Knights, and we expected the Knights to be quite good, but they were still within a score of the Knights in that game. So, yeah, it's difficult to get a good gauge on where the Admirals are at the moment in terms of their overall progression in the season. They do have a big advantage being at home in this game. You know, it's a very, very long trip down for the Trojans. And traditionally, it has been quite a tough battle between these two teams. So I'm interested in seeing what happens at the end of it, but I would be expecting the Trojans to come out on top of this one.
Yeah, I think this weekend is probably the first weekend where all of the games are probably intriguing. In a way, like I think they're all going to be really. I think they should be not necessarily close in all of the cases, but it will be just interesting to see the sort of level that everyone's at compared to everyone else. Now you've got everyone's got a game under their belt, a couple of games in some instances. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all shapes out. The Admirals are typically a very good side defensively and can frustrate teams. We saw that happen even when they had travelled up to Belfast. The defence scored all 4 points for them, and they stifled the Knights. The Knights not scoring until their final drive on offense. So I want to see, can they slow down this Trojans offense that has been absolutely humming, as we mentioned earlier, like just flying. That's going to be a real key battle there. I think that sort of defensive front seven of the Admirals versus the Trojans, that is going to be where the battle is won and lost. I think, and if the Admirals can slow them down, if the Trojans are slow to start, because they're going to have a 4.5 hour bus journey down, that can definitely lead to some tired legs and a slow start. I could see that happening. And if the Admirals are able to make it click on offense like they weren't able to do up in Belfast, that will make this a really interesting game. Or we might have to see the Trojans coming from behind, which is a lot harder to do when you're more reliant on the run game than the pass game. Like say UCD or a Rebels team of previous years, where you can just take a couple of shots and catch up. That's harder to do in the run game because it just takes more time off the clock and takes longer to get those drives going. So I think that could be a really interesting thing if the Admirals are able to lock down the run game, make the Trojans stop slow, and put up a touchdown or two of their own before the Trojans manage to get things into gear. Will make that really interesting. So I'm excited for that game. I think that one's going to be an absolute cracker. Probably the game of the weekend, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has all the ingredients for sure. And Alex mentioned that there, Rain, that the run game is so important for the Trojans, and obviously with Rayshon Boswell, the hat trick at the weekend, the couple of touchdowns the week before, he has began life in Ireland so well. And for the Admirals, that they have got some big guys on the line, they have got some good guys and a backer as well. They're going to have to be ready for him, because I don't know if you've seen much of the tape, and Alex, you could probably attest to this, but all Boswell seems to do is break ankles when he's running the ball. Defenders are not able to stop him.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to deal with for sure when a player has that level of just pure raw talent. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. And the annoying thing is as well that the Trojans kind of have added that pass game to their repertoire now with 2 touchdowns at the weekend. I think they had a few in their first game as well. So, yeah, when you can't stop Boswell, it opens up the passing game as well. And yeah, I think the offense being built around him really elevates it.
Okay, predictions then for this game. Rain, I'll go with you first.
I think it's probably going to be a 2-score victory for the Trojans. Relatively high scoring, somewhere around 28-14 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Alex?
I'm gonna say the Trojans win it, but I definitely think it's a closer one than Rian suggests. Maybe the Trojans to win it on the last drive of the game, and leave Cork really hating the Belfast teams for doing that to them twice.
Yeah, it is a close one. I think we haven't actually spoken enough about the Admiral's own rushing attack with the Kennedy brothers, Ben and Jake, and then Fionn, I think is a Craymon, is back this year. He started off really well last year before I think it was a hamstring injury that ended his season prematurely. So he'd be looking to get going too. So it would be interesting, and they have some very dangerous cornerbacks. Adam Jer, of course, is one to look out for. That if Don, sorry, I should say, throws the ball in any way inaccurately, he will be there to pick that off for sure. So it's very, very interesting. It's a tough one. I think with you, I'm going to edge it towards the Trojans, but it could be a field goal in it. It could be 3 points in it, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if it is the Admirals that come along and win this game. The other game on Saturday comes in Division 1, and it is a top of the table clash between 2-0 sides. The Kildare Crusaders welcome the Westmeath Minotaurs to Newbridge. Very interesting game here for both teams. This is the true test for the Crusaders. They've had, I wouldn't say easy, not disrespecting the Stags and the Giants, but they would have had a nicer start to the season than most teams, with 2 wins, both at home as well. This game is also at home in Newbridge too, against the Minotaurs, who are playing their first away game because they started with 2 games at home against the Rhinos and the Eagles. So a very interesting game. It's going to be it's huge for the Crusaders in this game to stop the rushing attack of the Minotaurs. I know Rafa wasn't available for the last game. I'm not sure. I hope it's not injury related. Maybe it's just life related that he just couldn't play that game. But they do have some other good rushers there too. Obviously, we've seen that in short situations, QB Sean McCormick is able to pop up with a couple of scores if needed too, as well as being able to pass the ball around to their vast array of wide receiving talent. And then on the Crusader side of things, similar. You're going to have to stop the quarterback. You're going to have to stop Wello. You're going to have to stop their wide receiver talent. The likes of Ben Coslow and James Ahern have had really, really good starts to the year. So they're going to have to be stopped too. I guess summing it all up and, going the long way around this, and Alex, to go to you first, it's a matter of the defenses and who's going to stop the offense first.
Yeah, and I think one thing that might possibly edge it for the Minotaurs is that they sort of have, their corners have the experience of really coming up against a lot of high passing offense from their season in the SBC last year, the last 2 years. So that, I think they're going to see a lot of passing and a lot of running as well behind Wello. But I think they might be more suited to defensively to stopping it. The Crusaders, we have seen them let in some scores in games against the Stags and the Giants, two sides, which, well, we can't say for certain if the Stags are a high or low scoring game. We've only seen one game of their existence. But the Giants are typically a lower scoring side. They did let in 2 touchdowns. It was only 2 touchdowns on the day, so I suppose I'm probably being a little bit harsh. But they do tend to play closer games. And I think when you play close games, the side with more experience tends to be able to edge it. And I just think that the Minotaurs, they might be able to use their experience to edge it in their favor. Again, we know the Crusaders aren't going to be afraid to try and push the ball down the field, and that is where that sort of experience and discipline that the Minotaurs have on defense might lead them to coming up to a few more turnovers to get their offense more possessions than the Crusaders offense have. And if you have more possessions, more opportunities to score than the Crusaders do, we've seen they're well able to convert possessions into scores. So I think that might be the key to the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I think I'd 100% agree with Alex. I think it will probably come down to the defenses because both of those offenses are very, very potent. And like you said, Alex, the Minotaurs are going to be probably a little bit more prepared for the, I wouldn't call it air raid, but in AFI 1 terms, air raid attack of the Crusaders. Whereas, the Crusaders have been letting in a few scores. So I think I'm fully on board with what Alex is saying and edging this one in favor of the Minotaurs.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing that the Minotaurs were caught out with a lot early on, especially in that game against the Eagles, was the outside runs. And no one is better in D1, you'd feel at the moment, executing outside runs than Wello.
Yeah.
So that's going to be so interesting if they can get him the ball on the outside to see what they'll be able to do. But we are going to go and have a look at, we're going to give predictions. Alex will be back with us there in a second. He'll give us his, but I'll start with you first, Rian. Who have you got in this game?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth. I do see the Minotaurs coming out on top. Let's give them 10 points in this one.
10-point victory. I hope it's a high-scoring game because, like I said, I'm going to go down to it, and I'm hoping it's not going to be a low-scoring affair like previous games. Well, actually, no, I've been lucky so far this year. All the games I've gone to have been high-scoring affairs. Anyway, Alex, your prediction for this game, Minotaurs or Crusaders?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, I think the defense of the Minotaurs will create enough turnovers to give them enough possessions to outscore the Crusaders, who I think can score well. So I'm going to say they win this one by a score in a game that ends in the 30s or 40s for both teams.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go for... I think I'm going to go for the Minotaurs on this one. I think the ability for the Minotaurs to score and the fact that they have a lot of SBC experience has already helped them in games this year, and I think that's going to continue to. If the Crusaders do want to win this game, they're going to have to go and score early and score often. Almost every time they have the ball, they're going to have to score, which is not an easy task against against that defense too, which are fast and they can hit hard as well. So I'm going to go, for a Minotaurs victory in this game. Moving on to the last game of the weekend, and that is we're going back up to the Vale Centre. It is the Northwest.
2 more games.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about Sundays. I just assumed that we did the other game. Sorry. Yes, Sundays games. Let's go there. We'll go back up to the Premier Division. The Dublin Rebels 0-1 against the South Dublin Panthers 0-1. In a game, a repeat of last year's Shamrock Bowl semi-final. Obviously, the fortunes for both teams have changed dramatically since that game. Tough one now. We haven't seen the Rebels since the opening weekend of the season going down to UCD. The Panthers, like I mentioned, are coming off, first of all, a 47-7 defeat against the Trojans at home, and then the 0-0 draw at the weekend against the Vikings. So a tough game to call because you don't honestly know what both teams are up to, especially when it comes to the Rebels.
I think you're right, Dara. I think I know what the Panthers are up to, and it's not very much, being honest with you. But the Rebels are a bit of an unknown. They did manage to get some scores on a very good UCD team. And they're going to...
Nope.
They didn't get any scores. Oh,
14.
Okay, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So disregard everything that I said. They're a total unknown. Surely some of that offensive firepower has stuck around since the departure of Ty Henry, so we probably will see a little bit more of an offensive showing from them in this one. I think for the Panthers, it's going to be really, really important to get that offense humming. 2 games and only, 8 points they've scored so far? It's not really good enough at this level of football. So, yeah, they're going to really want to get their offense moving. It's more down to where the Rebels are at for me than where the Panthers are at.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking at a different Rebels team than we saw in week 1. They've had 4 weeks to sort of sit in our thumbs and listen to everyone talk about how much they've fallen off. And I'm sure they'll have been working on everything that they did wrong in that UCD game to get it corrected for the next game that they were playing. The fact that it's the Panthers who are also on a lull, I think will really G them up as well. Like it really encourage them to go out and be like, right, lads, this is where we get our season started. It's only game 2. We lost against the team that everyone says is a lock for the bowl. This is where we get our season turned around back on the right track. I think they're going to be absolutely raring to go. From a Panther side of things, and again, we've mentioned it so often with the how it's going is where's the leaders there. I believe I've heard that it's Anto McCoy, is it head coaching them
Anto
down
Bork.
there. Bork, is it? So I can't remember the surname. But I've heard that he's a player coach there. It's always difficult to do the player coach role, and I don't believe there's any dedicated coaches down there that are not playing. Dara, I know you were at one of the games and everyone's pretty much kitted up on that sideline.
There has to obviously be one guy who's not kitted up.
Qualifications.
Yeah. And who's not, because you can't have everybody kitted up. There has to be one non-playing coach there on the side, and obviously per league rule. So there is one.
There's got to be one.
I didn't get a look at the sideline of the game on Saturday if they had any more. Still don't know if they have a head coach yet, like an official head coach, or this is the way they're going for the rest of the year. So still so many unknowns when it comes to the Panthers as well.
Yeah, like it's funny. It's a team we've seen twice, and most recently last week we arguably know less about than the Rebels, who we haven't seen since week 1. They've still got a lot of talent on that squad, like the likes of Andre Barlafa, Kenny McCarthy on defense. Like leaders who've played for years, played in Shamrock Bowls, and I know for a fact that they'll have the team in the right mindset going into this game. Whereas we just simply don't know with the Panthers. It's why I would give the Rebels the edge, and I would give them the benefit of the doubt for everything they're doing behind the scenes there. So I guess it's really up to the Panthers to sort of prove us wrong, but I wouldn't be able to see anything other than a Rebels win in this one.
Yeah, well, we'll jump then straight into predictions. Yeah, so Rebels victory, I'm going to go for that too. I think they have a lot more weapons on offense. You mentioned some other names as well. Pete McMahon, Tommy Breslin as well. I think obviously QB Sam Doran has obviously going to have to do has done obviously a lot of work in those 4 weeks to sort of get some more chemistry with his wide receivers and such. We can't forget about Jack Cronin as well. I believe, now I remember from being on the sidelines there at the UCD game, I believe that they had a potential new wide receiver on the sideline, but he didn't get him registered in time to play game 1. So he'll be playing in this game. Don't ask me who his name is. I don't know. I just know that they said they got this guy. I think he is Australian. I think. That he is going to be playing. I think I could be wrong now. You always hear rumors on sidelines. So
His
we're
name's
not sure. But
Greg Johnson.
I think it's almost illegal now for them not to have a Johnson on the team.
Yeah.
If they don't at one stage. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with a Rebels victory on this one. I wish I could have more positive things to say about the Panthers, but honestly I do worry for them. Even at this early stage of the year, there's a lot of dysfunction that seems to be going on there. And we're only hearing a part of it. God knows what's actually really happening in the background as well. So I hope that they can get stuff sorted out, because how well they played last year, getting to the bowl, or the semi-final of the Shamrock Bowl. I think they started 6-0 as well, or 5-0. They played so well last year. Hopefully they can find some of that form and get back into it. But for this week especially, I'm going to go with a Rebels victory. Rain, what have you got on it? Who have you got, in this game?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Rebels victory. It's not going to be close.
Short and sweet. I did her around like a politician, and you keep it short and sweet. I like that.
In the whatever it is, the INLFA, will flag football be made illegal, so that these players can't just go off and choose one code to play? They have to play football. That is seriously missing.
There is no such thing as flag football in the ILAF. There is also no such thing as the mercy rule in ILAF either. Well, we'll make it 50. Make a nice round number. 50, you can have the mercy rule. 35, no. Right, on to the last game. Now, this is definitely the last game. We're going back up to the Vale Centre to Derry. That is the Northwest Vipers 1-1 taking on the 0-1 Antrim Stags. Very interesting game here. The Stags we haven't seen since their close defeat to the Kildare Crusaders, like we just mentioned earlier on. But the Vipers, they're coming off their 8-0 loss to the Rhinos at the weekend. A much more I'm not going to say even, because it was quite an even game, you could say, at the weekend for the Vipers too, but an opponent much more even that they will look at the schedule and would have said that this is a game that they are planning to win.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting one. Kind of will tell the story toward the where both these teams are going to end up this season. The Vipers have a win under their belts already. That they maybe not necessarily have counted for, but like they will be happy with that. But they'll be really keen to go and get another to put themselves in an area where 2-1 you're certainly in playoff contention there. Whereas the Stags are coming off a nice 2-week break there after a good opening game, where they put up some scores on offense. Defensively, not great, so they let it slip toward the end of the game, certainly, and the Crusaders were able to punch in a couple of scores toward the end. So I think their focus, the coaches, will have been maybe hammering on keep the head in the game. You got to keep your focus for the full 60 minutes of the game, and I think they've proven they can put the ball in the end zone. I think they were missing a couple of guys as well for that trip down to the Crusaders. So I think it's another one where it's going to be a tough one to call. I think the Vipers are gonna play this one really tough defensively, and they're going to be really up for it. This game does have there's been a bit of bad blood historically between the Vipers and the Razorbacks, which many of the Stags are former Razorbacks. So I think this will be a really spicy Northern derby, and I think it'll be a quite close game as well. So I'm looking forward to this one as well.
Yes, one of the important questions I didn't broach at the start of this was, will the Stags have their jerseys in time? Because obviously it's well established that they had temporary all black jerseys due to kit supplier issues. I don't know if there is any Stags players or staff tuning in right now. So if you are, put in the comments and let us know if you will have the jerseys this week, or if you want to keep it as a surprise. That's fine too. Rian,
Vipers will presumably have their new red jerseys, which I gotta say I was a big fan of when they announced that. How did they look on the field, Dara?
I must say, on the field, yes, it's a double thumbs up for me. I have to say it did look well.
First time ever.
Look,
Traditionally,
that red and yellow combo is tough to make work, but I think with the black pants and everything, it's working well. The only thing is, and look, this is probably hanging around with Sean McVay too much, is that they need to get uniform color helmets. You know, you had some yellow, you had some red, you had some white. There's all one color, guys. You know, Halfords, tin of paint. Just we got to do it, guys. We got to pick a color here.
It's like watching the Pro Bowl.
It is that case. And which sport did this guy come from? GAA? Did he come from rugby? Did he come from soccer? Which one is he up there? Which one is he representing today?
Rian, I like that. I like that idea though. A helmet for which code of sport you grew up playing. Was it rugby, or soccer? Each guy gets a different helmet. I like that.
Rian, your thoughts on the game itself, and of course, then if you want to give us your preview or your prediction, sorry, I should say.
Prediction.
After.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, for sure. A little bit of an unknown with the Stags. Hopefully, as you said, the Vipers get the memo and pack their red jerseys for this one. It's they seem to be on the right track. The Vipers do. So I'm hopefully looking forward to seeing them having a bit more of a coherent passing attack. They have had some very, very nice plays in their first couple of games in the passing attack, but they want to really build on that. I think this is a game where they can certainly experiment a little bit with that aspect of the game. And as for the Stags, they have nothing to lose in this one. They've probably marked this one as their calendar as one of the more winnable games of the season. So hopefully they do come out and play like they've got nothing to lose. End of the day, though, I think I'm going to go with the Vipers to win this one, but it will be close.
Mm-hmm. I guess, Alex, a big danger when it comes to the Vipers and trying to stop him is going to be Duncan Maguire, who carried for 113 yards and 21 carries last time out. You know, quarterback Scott McLean only threw 4 completions in the game for 105 yards. So, you know, it is a running attack for sure for them. The Vipers are, like I said, are physical on the line too. I'm sure they'll have no problem with a team that wants to run on them all day. But you know, I guess getting more out of the passing game is going to be vital for the Stags in a place like I mentioned in the Vale Centre, where if the conditions aren't ideal, it could be a tough day for quarterbacks.
Yeah. As we've said many times that the Vipers have a really strong front seven there, and they are adept at stopping the running game. It's really imperative that the Stags do get that passing game up and running. Yeah, as you said, 4 completed passes, not ideal, but as you said, they kept running the rock because it was working on the day. If the run isn't working early, I'd expect them to sort of pivot and try get that passing game working. Scott's been around the league for a long time with the Jets. He knows how to pass the ball, and he's also quite a threat to run it as well himself. And so I wonder if they mix in some sort of RPOs or just QB options to keep it to sort of keep the Vipers guessing. Because if you do run the same thing too often, you know, the Vipers will certainly be able to pick up on that, and they will be able to put the clamps on it. But I think they've got the weapons there to be able to mix it up as well. You know, I don't think they'll be totally one-dimensional.
So who are you going for then?
Do you know what? I'm going to say the Stags win this. First win for the Stags franchise. They catch a Vipers team that are on a bit of a down after losing to yourselves, so I think, yeah, I'm going to say plump for the Stags. Stags win.
Okay. I'm going to go for a home win on this one. I'm going to go for the Vipers. I think that they weren't able to execute sort of their running game the way they like last week, with their option, their double option. Dan Donowski has got an arm and he can connect you, just a little wayward, and I guess that's down to where D-line not giving him any time to throw at the weekend, and obviously conditions too. So, but I think he can do that this weekend, and I think he will. It will be another close game for them, score in it, but I think the Vipers will have enough to go 2-1, and in what will be already for them a absolutely fantastic season, and a great season of progression as they look to obviously get back to previous days where they were challenging for D1 titles too. But that's it, lads. We have made it through all the games. Before we go, I should mention that this show and every show this season is brought to you by Rain Rocks Web Design. They are the guys that set up UCP.ie for us. Make sure you head over there to keep abreast with the latest standings, fixtures, results in the AFI this year. They are updated there for you right now. So get over and see who's top of the table, who's bottom, and already working out permutations of if this team wins, if this team loses, where's this team going to be. It's getting to that point of the year, which is always great fun. Also, make sure you follow us on our socials at Under Center Pod. That's where you can also register your team for the ILAF if you want to as well. The armadillos are now gone, so you're going to have to come back with something else instead. Also, if you want to, you can head over to Instagram at UnderCenterPod. Give us a follow on there too. Alex, Rain, thank you so much for tonight.
Been a pleasure.
Absolutely, thank you. And
until next week, where we'll have 4 games to review, and I think it's 5 or 6 then the following week, including the Harp Bowl semi-final rematch between the Mavs and the Rhinos to look forward to as well. But that is next week, and until then, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.